Nothing happens unless we are comfortable with appropriate access and data protection. Being excellent stewards of our clients' data is paramount in all that we do with AI, Gen AI, or related technologies we have in production today.
Welcome to Technovation. I'm your host, Peter High. My guest today is Mike Lucas. Mike is the Chief Information Officer of Wilson Sonsini Goodrich Rosati, a global law firm with roughly 1,000 lawyers and over $1 billion in annual revenue, ranking it among the largest law firms in the world. Mike's been in his current role for more than 7.5 years, and in it, he's responsible for overseeing global information services and technology resources for the firm's offices worldwide. He also serves as chair of the firm's Practice Technology Innovation Committee. Prior to Wilson Sonsini, Mike was the CIO of Aiken Gump, and prior to that, he spent 14 years at Hogan Lovells, where he was appointed the firm's first ever global chief information officer. Mike, welcome back to Technovation. It's great to speak with you as always.
Oh, thank you, Peter. Really glad to be here.
Well, take a moment, if you wouldn't mind, Mike, and talk a little bit about Wilson Sonsini's business. I know, although you've worked for other law firms, as I've just mentioned, this is a unique one, certainly. And I wonder if you can tease out a bit of that for our audience, please.
For sure. Wilson Sonsini, is now a global law firm founded in Palo Alto. More than 60 years ago, the firm has represented, some of the most innovative technology companies associated with virtually every milestone innovation. Think of Google, Apple, etc., as well as life sciences companies who are helping shape the future of healthcare. Our firm's clients range from startups to mature companies, and we specialize in taking young companies on sort of that journey, that life cycle. And we're a full service firm, whether it be corporate transactions, associated patent work, litigation, antitrust, regulatory compliance, and everything in between.
That's a great overview. Thank you for that, Mike. And talk a bit more about your role. I mentioned a little bit in the introduction, some of the things that are within your purview, but maybe add some details as you see fit.
Yeah, as CIO at Wilson, I lead a team that's responsible for all aspects of enterprise technology. That includes operations, application development and support, security, which is ever important, risk and compliance, and service delivery. My team's heavily involved in innovation efforts, helping support various initiatives in that space, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that. We've got boots on the ground in all 19 of our offices globally. And of course, today we support a hybrid work environment throughout. And I also oversee some outsourced functions like document processing and things like that. Yeah.
That's a broad purview, to say the least. Well, as you noted in your description of the firm, it's really kind of synonymous with Silicon Valley, founded in Palo Alto, as you mentioned, often referred to as Silicon Valley's law firm, in fact. And having worked at multiple major law firms, again, as aforementioned, what advantages does this access and reputation offer to a head of technology for the firm?
Yeah, that's a great question, Peter. One advantage is that I'm often asked by partners of the firm to speak with various emerging tech clients, startups, about their innovation and their vision. At times, they're simply looking for feedback. Other times, they might be more aggressive and have a little bit of a push for us to, kick the tires on their product or purchase their product. And so there's probably a balance in terms of reciprocating. But yeah, I often have early access to a lot of what's coming out of the Valley, and proximity to many companies in the ecosystem in Palo Alto obviously strengthens that. So we get a lot of early looks, as well as insights as to what our clients expect from us. They want their law firms to operate like they do. That's hard sometimes with startups, as you might know. My team has a huge amount of experience in helping our clients. Reciprocating with our clients is truly a unique opportunity. And given the rich, innovative culture and ecosystem that surrounds us, I often like to say to be the CIO at Wilson Sonsini is as good as it gets in legal. And I'm certainly happy to be in that role.
That's great to hear, especially as it's been a role you've had for some time now. I wonder, you talked about the fact that you chair the firm's Practice Technology Innovation Committee. Can you talk a bit about the constitution of that committee and its purview?
Yeah, we started that committee a number of years ago. When it started out, it was a 6-person team, and we've essentially doubled since. The committee makeup includes members of firm management, our general counsel's office, our head of KM, our chief operating officer, our chief innovation security officer, and of course, our chief innovation officer. And then other heads of functions also have sort of cameo roles. People on the administrative staff, they contribute as well. And we pride ourselves on collaboration. All of our ongoing efforts are intended efforts, and as such, the group acts as, sort of a sounding board, as well as the decision-making body. Sometimes we're just listening, and sometimes we're trying to guide and influence decisions. It's been a real honor chairing this committee for the past several years. We've gotten a lot accomplished.
I'd love to hear more about the accomplishments themselves. What are some examples of the innovations driven by the committee and its work?
It's been an evolution. An early example of the committee-led initiative was just a drive toward digitization, right? A few years ago, that was the big push, and automation, and whereby we selected a number of tools for key groups of lawyers to validate and eventually use in their practice. And these tools encompass document automation, quality control, and collaboration, which led us to focus on deal closings, right? A big part of our business, whereby we automated the tasks associated with these closing elements from start to electronic signature, like literally soup to nuts. And we had already automated a number of business startup processes for our corporate practice prior to establishing this sort of more formal practice technology innovation committee, the one that exists today.
Really interesting. And as we delve a little bit deeper into topics related to innovation, I know artificial intelligence is considered to be a disruptive set of solutions to law firms. And I know there are some that have been very shy in its use. Your firm has leaned into it, however, developing offerings centered around artificial intelligence. I've been fascinated by some of the stories that you've told me about the orientation of the firm relative to AI, and I wonder if you could share some of those stories here.
Happy to. I'll add to my point, about the committee. Eventually, the committee ended up supporting much more larger, more comprehensive platforms. One of them was called Neuron. And phase one of Neuron, which was driven by our emerging company practice leadership, they had this vision about trying to automate and targeted automating incorporations for startups, dealing with and providing cap table management, for example. When you're starting up a company, you've got to resolve all those things. And again, with this mindset of end-to-end automation. And today we've onboarded over 1,000 clients onto the Neuron platform, and it continues to grow in functionality. And now, introducing AI comes into play, and probably the most popular in the firm now is our pilot using ChatGPT 4.0. We have a number of attorneys using this platform internally in test mode to help identify potential use cases. They often ingest documents, right? It's model content using the RAG method, right? The augmented retrieval method, which inevitably leads to richer outputs. And those outputs are then rated and reviewed. And so that's sort of how we're learning and how we're trying to figure out what we want to leverage when we truly do go to market. We are still learning and evaluating and building on our early experiences with LLMs. And it's worth mentioning, we also have an ongoing internal pilot effort with using Microsoft Copilot. We are also leveraging Copilot for various aspects of application development. So there's a number of things there that we're doing. And all the while, we're very focused on appropriate governance and establishing the right guardrails. You hear this theme throughout every industry. So nothing happens unless we are comfortable with appropriate access and data protection. Being excellent stewards of our clients' data is paramount in all that we do with AI, Gen AI, or related technologies that we have in production today. I'll add a kind of a legal point here. The ABA recently came out with an ethics opinion, Formal Opinion 512, on appropriate use of generative AI by lawyers. And that may be causing many to pause and address and realign their approach. So some early adopters that kind of raced into this, that's no different here at the firm. the opinion puts a lot of emphasis on competency and understanding by lawyers in terms of generative AI technology. They need to understand it, and it's led us to, more keenly focus on professional development and training, right? We oftentimes think now we have to really upskill and train everybody in the firm about how to use these tools, how to do better prompting, making sure that they understand, as lawyers, they're very focused. If you're going to start delivering work product, you really have to understand the technology, and you have to understand the impact of using that technology to deliver work product to clients, because they're going to have their own expectations about that. So we're working through that and learning a lot. And of course, as is the case with other verticals, the ecosystem is bubbling up around us. Commercial applications with baked-in solutions are likely going to lessen the need for us to do a lot of bespoke building of apps and capabilities. So there's this sort of convergence that's happening. But we've been taking a very deliberate and I think prudent approach.
It certainly sounds it. And I wonder, Mike, I think it's so admirable the extent to which the organization has leaned in and developed these products that leverage powerful technology that does what people once did, and perhaps making those same people more productive in other areas. But I wonder, was it ever at all controversial? Was it a tough sell for the organization in order to lean into these? I mean, in many ways, you're avoiding the innovator's dilemma, which is, again, incredibly admirable. But it's also, change is at times a difficult thing to bring about. So I wonder how difficult it was to make the case for some of these changes.
Yeah, that's a good observation. In one hand, having this sort of innovative culture, comes natural for us to go and attack or emerging tech and try to make it happen. But the balance is the impact on the operating model of the firm and how we operate. You have to kind of recognize that this is very, very disruptive technology and has the potential to disrupt, up and down the chain. And then you have these different generations of lawyers and partners in the firm, some more adept, some more interested, some less interested, depending on how they've operated and practiced for years and years. So there's this kind of balance that you're trying to kind of strike, trying to move things forward, but doing it carefully and not getting yourself into any kind of trouble. But I do think that it can be, to some degree, deemed a bit controversial in terms of how it might impact people. But I think most people, because of the media and because of all of the awareness around this, the risk and the safety issues and things, there's so much bubbling around you that most people, I think, realize you can't skip this. You've got to embrace it. You have to lean in, but do it carefully.
Yeah, the prudent approach certainly wins the day. One thing I've always found fascinating about your career, Mike, as somebody who's been a global CIO multiple times over for multiple major law firms, is you run a team. What's very unusual about your industry is your colleagues outside of IT, the attorneys themselves, all have a degree that presumably no one in IT has. They have the JD or its equivalent internationally, and obviously these are high-powered, high-intellect individuals throughout the firm, and being influential in that environment, given some of the differences in education, in degree, and so on, I know can be a challenge at times. But you've been able to forge such a remarkable career and an influential one with that cohort. And I wonder, what are some of the secrets to it, given some of the unusual pathways you have, and the need to make the case with again, such a high-powered intellectual set of individuals and colleagues as you have for quite some time?
Yeah, we definitely work with a lot of smart people, very articulate people. They're very good professional writers. They have a lot of intellect, as you mentioned. But first, I think lawyers realize their core competency is in IT. So they need really good technology. And so for the most part, they're happy for us to be the experts and do our jobs. And of course, you have to earn their trust. And for me and my team, that's all about change management and effective service delivery. You're trying to deliver the best service, stay out of their way, make sure they can practice, make sure they can do their jobs. And at the end of the day, our job is to provide solid, works every day, anywhere tech to our lawyers, so they can effectively service their clients. It's really that simple. As you know all too well, Peter, only after you master these table stakes, as we often refer to them, are you able to add more value, right? By integrating into the various legal practices, innovating where you can. That's kind of our approach. In my experience, lawyers are very supportive of any function that makes their life easier. I'm a firm believer that competency leads to greater engagement, appreciation, and strong partnerships. And that's what we try to do in our department for the firm.
No, it's a great response. It was super interesting. We've talked about a number of consequential trends, AI obviously chief among them, but among others that have come up in the conversation so far. And I wonder, Mike, are there any others that are particularly intriguing to you as you look to the future?
This isn't particularly novel thought, I don't think, but the opportunity to revolutionize the workforce through upskilling, influencing a change in culture in the profession, the empowerment of these tools we've talked about, enabling our employees to do very powerful things with natural language in all parts of the business. There's just immense automation opportunities in law firms, and that's impactful, and that stuff really and truly excites me. So that's what I'm most excited about, is making an even greater impact with my team and what we can do for the firm.
Great response. I wonder also, Mike, as somebody who remains current and I know is a active consumer of a broad intellectual diet, are there any things you recently read or watched or listened to that you would recommend to your peer group?
Yeah, it's funny that you say broad intellectual diet. My wife tells me all the time I need to read more fiction. She says, because inevitably you just get stuck in this reading material related to your career and your job and trying to be better and be aware and be current. And some of your own publications, by the way, your books and podcasts have been super helpful and excellent guideposts for me throughout my career. So I'll throw that out to you. That said, I do enjoy more and more getting lost in a good book. And so that's a lot of fun for me. But one read I do think is excellent and has left its mark on me, and that is Satya Nadella's Hit Refresh. I find him to be an extraordinarily insightful human being, not to mention a brave soul, someone who really cares about people. His ability to rally teams of all shapes and sizes to unify under one vision in this big, huge behemoth global company is really, truly outstanding. So I'm very impressed with that book and very impressed with the man himself. But switching gears a bit, I'm in the process of reading The Demon of Unrest. It's by Eric Larson, which is essentially about the start of the Civil War and how the Civil War started and all the parallels. And so, it's an impactful read on past events, but offers some parallels and lessons for us even in today's world. So I'm enjoying that read so far.
Nice suggestions. I appreciate those reflections, Mike. Well, hey, Mike, I really also just appreciate you taking time with me, sharing a bit about the things that are exciting you now in your post at Wilson Sonsini as Chief Information Officer, some of the innovative things that you and your team are bringing to bear for your colleagues and by extension, your colleagues' clients. It's been a terrific conversation. I always appreciate your time.
Well, thank you, Peter. Thanks for having me and wishing you all the best. Hope to talk to you again soon.